Hey everyone, I'm Nea Arentzen with the Food52 Test Kitchen, and today we're going to be making a plant-based bourbon pecan pie. I'm joined here today by Susanna. She's the founder of Tourlami plant-based butter, which is available for exclusive pre-sale on our site right now. Hey Susanna.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be making this.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So what kind of butter are we using today? Because I know you have the premium and you also have all-purpose.
Today for the pie dough, we're going to be using Tourlami Premium. That's really going to be your high butterfat butter, but then in the filling for the pecan pie, that's where we're going to be using the all-purpose butter. So it's a super basic pie dough. We have the butter that's going to be our fat, right? Then we have an all-purpose flour. I like to use King Arthur flour, a little bit of sugar, salt, vinegar, and water.
How should we start?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do is before you're ready to work with the butter, you're going to want to pull it out maybe an hour or two before you work with it. It's just going to be much easier at room temperature. It's going to cut really nice and beautifully.
That's interesting to know actually, because I feel like with regular butter, you always want to keep it in the fridge until the moment that you're baking with it.
What makes Tourlami different is that we use cocoa butter and coconut oil are the main saturated fats. If you work with cocoa butter at a colder temperature from the refrigerator, it's just going to be super hard and really brittle. But you can see at room temperature,
It's sliced so nicely.
Exactly, it cuts really beautifully, but it still keeps its shape. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut it into around tablespoon sizes.
How much are we looking for?
260 grams.
Okay,
of
260.
butter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. So we'll pop this in the fridge for how long do you think?
I would say like an hour is going to be a good amount of time. We'll make sure this is nice and cold because if we use it warm, it's just going to incorporate.
Okay, so we have the cold butter.
Yes.
What's next?
You're going to put your flour, your sugar, and your salt into your food processor, and then you're going to add in your butter. We're just looking to kind of break the butter down. So what you want to make sure of is that it doesn't look like fine sand and that you have these small pieces kind of flecked all the way throughout. So having these nice little pieces of butter in your dough is going to help once it's in the oven to open up. So you're going to get this really nice flakiness of your pie dough as opposed to having something that's a little bit more dense.
Yeah. When did you start Tourlami?
5 years ago. So we just had our 1 year anniversary, but it took me 4 years to create the product. So 2 years to really figure out what the recipes were going to be, and then another 2 years to go through manufacturing, R&D.
Wow. And are we your first retail
This is
space?
it. This is
so
it.
Excited? But
Yeah.
I'm very excited because it is so hard to find a good quality plant-based butter in the store.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yep. So these butters really can do it all. We're going to add in our cold water and then vinegar. A lot of people think that the vinegar is used to help make the dough a little bit more tender, but what I actually use it for is to make sure that it doesn't oxidize. So you can actually make this pie dough, keep in the freezer, and it's not going to turn gray on you. And then again, you're just going to pulse it until it starts looking hydrated, but it's still crumbly.
Okay.
Let's see. Yep, so I would just give it a little scrape around the sides. So this is really going to help to make sure that you're not overworking your dough at this stage because we are going to be rolling out the dough. So what you can see is that there are these little bit more hydrated pieces and then it's still kind of crumbly. That's exactly what we're looking for.
I'm really interested in hearing a little bit about what inspired you to kind of develop Tourlami. And I know you have some history working in bakeries and restaurants as well.
Yep, so I've worked in kitchens for over 15 years professionally, and what kind of led me to starting this was that over 8 years ago, I decided to go fully plant-based. And then all of a sudden, my personal and professional lives were just at opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think that that's what kind of fast-forwarded starting this company because I wanted to create my own plant-based pastry line and just couldn't with the plant-based butters that were on the market.
Okay, so now that this is wrapped up,
Yes.
this is going to go in the fridge, right? For how long?
Overnight, at least.
Overnight.
Yep.
Okay. We'll see you tomorrow, guys.
You want to make sure anytime you're making pie dough, the gluten is allowed to rest so that it's not going to shrink when you actually go to bake it.
So now that we have our chilled dough, will you walk me through the next few steps?
We've actually pulled this dough out and we let it sit out for about an hour or two. So now we're going through the rolling part of the process. So this is what's actually going to be creating the flakiness in the dough. So we're going to flour our workspace, and then we're going to put the dough out, and then we're actually going to do 3 single folds or letter folds. And what's happening is that as you roll out the dough, the butter is going to be kind of smearing a little bit, so you're going to get these nice kind of layers of butter that's striated throughout the dough, which is really what's going to help create that light flakiness.
That's interesting because even before when we were making it and you were like, no, you want some of these bigger clumps.
Yeah.
that's such a good explanation for why we are leaving those clumps. And then it's like you're not gonna get just those little pockets of butter. It's
No.
gonna be spread out.
Exactly.
So after working in restaurants for so many years, have any of that informed kind of how you developed and made this butter?
And ultimately, I really just wanted to create a butter that worked because I was so frustrated with the butters that were on the market. Whether you are doing this at home, whether you're in a professional kitchen, a plant-based butter still should work like butter.
Were you working with any plant-based chefs at the time when you were learning how to cook more plant-based?
No, so everything that I learned was basically self-taught, and I think, yeah, the advantage that I had, I think, was that I learned how to make the traditional recipes first.
So you worked at some amazing spots.
I was very lucky with the opportunities that were presented to me. I think that it just kind of taught me what it meant to produce something that was excellent, and that really set the standard. So this looks amazing. So the butter is a little bit more worked in.
It's just soft dough.
Yep, this is exactly it. So then we're just gonna kind of wrap it up again in some plastic.
And then in the fridge for how long?
Again, overnight.
Okay, I'm putting Susanna to work for this next part.
Yes. So one of the things that we were kind of saying before is that you want to work with this dough cold. So this step, again, I just want to utilize.
I don't know why I love the look of the rectangle. For some reason, it looks so like nice and folded.
Yeah, and by doing a slightly larger batch of dough, it just gives you a little bit more flexibility. Now that this is rolled out, I want this to chill in the refrigerator because again, we've just stretched out that dough. It's going to give it a little bit of time to shrink back if it needs to. So then it goes into the fridge, you're going to let it chill, and then we're going to cut around.
Okay,
there we go. So you want to make sure that you have a sharp knife because you want to make sure that when you are cutting around that you are having a nice open slice.
This is something I've never done when I made a pie. Is this something that you kind of started doing with this butter? Or does it have anything to do with this specific recipe, or do you usually do this?
I mean, I really like having a more rustic looking pie. I don't like the crimped edges. So I'm taking the circle and I'm just placing it in. I want to make sure that I have an even layer. You can see that there are some kind of like ripples throughout. So what I'll do is I'll do some little pleats.
You can see some of the layers.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, so parchment and then beans.
Yep, some baking weights. I mean, you can do rice, you can do beans, you can do the metal pie weights. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure, depending on if you're using metal or if you're using ceramic, the bake time is not as important as the temperature and also what the pie looks like. You want to make sure that when we're using pie weights, that the bottom of the dough, it hasn't taken on color, but it's basically fully baked through, because if not, and you take the pie weights out, the bottom of the pie is just going to puff right up.
So the pie crust is in the oven.
Yes.
We have a whole new set of ingredients here.
So basically what we're doing is we have two different thickening agents that we're utilizing. So we have flour in the recipe, so we're making a roux, just like you would see in Creole or Cajun cooking. That roux is going to be, you know,
so interesting.
One part of the thickening, and then the other is our agar powder. So agar is a vegetarian gelatin. Essentially, it comes from seaweed. And so this is the all-purpose butter.
Gotcha.
So as soon as that's nice and melted, then we're just gonna kind of slowly sprinkle in our flour while whisking. So you just wanna make sure that we're avoiding any lumps.
So interesting. I've never made a pie that is based on a roux, and I think it's such a smart and innovative way to thicken like a plant-based custard. I
feel like pecan pie in general eats a little bit sweet, and so I really wanted to make sure that I was not using too much sugar.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it is really nice and balanced, and you know, that's with the help of the bourbon, a little bit of salt. Also the pecans, we toasted them. And if you don't want to use bourbon, the alcohol does cook out because we are going to be boiling the filling, but you can just substitute water. We have the maple syrup, and then we also have brown sugar, and also our third sweetener, molasses. I think that's a really integral part of a pecan pie. So it's just helping so that when you eat it, you're able to kind of pick up these different notes as opposed to just straight granulated sugar.
Yeah.
What you're going to see is that as it starts to boil, it's going to start to foam a little bit. And so what we're looking for is that foam is going to be what's kind of changing colors. You can go at like a medium high heat. You just want to make sure that it's not going to burn on you. Because ultimately what you're doing as well is you're creating a gelling agent, a thickening agent, but we're also cooking the starch out. This is a nice kind of like pale honey color. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add in all of our liquid and our sugar, and then we're gonna bring that to a boil, and we're gonna let it boil for around 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
So now we have the salt, and then we're adding in the agar. So we're boiling this until it's gonna get thick, and then the agar is gonna kind of activate a little bit.
That literally looks like caramel.
Yep, so you can see now that I'm whisking it, it's kind of leaving a trail behind. Yeah. Yep, so we're just gonna temp it. So we're at 208, so this is exactly where we want it to be. So now we can just pour in all of the chopped pecans.
Right.
I'm gonna turn the heat off for this. And then you're just kind of folding it in. You wanna make sure that it's evenly distributed. This is the filling. So now we're just gonna pour it into our pie shell, and then we're gonna top it with the pecans on top in whatever pattern we want. And then we're gonna brush it with a little bit of simple syrup. And again, that's to give the pecans just like a nice little glaze on the top. So we're gonna bake it at a pretty low temperature at 275 for around 45 minutes. And then-
Wow, that is low.
It's low.
Interesting, and for how long?
45 minutes, you wanna make sure that the internal temperature is around 190. And then you just let it cool all the way, and that's it.
This looks so good. The layers, I don't know if you can see, but these are some pretty crazy layers.
I know, zoom in on these layers. You get the layers with a little bit of structure because of the processing in of the butter, the rolling it out. I think that it's kind of the best of all the worlds of a really nice flaky pie dough, but that's still kind of tender and also holds its shape. It's beautiful and rustic and all those good things.
So pretty.
Yeah.
Can we cut a little slice?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, great. Here, I'll let you do the honors.
Oh God.
That looks beautiful.
Yeah.
She's stunning. She's gorgeous.
I'll go like this so you can see the inside. It's so nice and flaky, and it still has that gooiness, what you would expect from a pecan pie. As this sits, it's going to keep its shape a little bit more. So, you know, we're really getting the best of the best.
Honestly,
with it still being a little bit
great
more.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
If you told me that this was plant-based, I would have no idea.
I mean, and that's the world that we're living in now, is that we have access to really high quality ingredients that actually work, and it's so exciting for me to be able to show everybody how to make these products that are delicious for everybody.
Bourbon,
let's do it. All right, that's the tiniest bite.
The photo. I know, it was small. That is so good.
Yeah, and you can see even on the bottom, right? Look how flaky it is.
So flaky.
Yeah.
I can't wait to bake this holiday season with the Tourlami butter. And if you guys watching at home also want to try it, you can get this Tourlami butter all-purpose and premium during our exclusive pre-sale that's happening right now. Thank you so much, Susanna, for coming on and showing me how to bake with your butter.
Yeah, so if pie feels like a little bit too much to tackle, we have lots of recipes also online, so lots of fun things to do.
And if you make it, let us know. We would both love to hear what you think. And I'll see you in the next video.